To all the Asian Americans that are staying silent about what's happening in LA, you think you're safe because you're not Hispanic? Think again, because who do you think they'll come after next? Just remember, you're not white. Those maggots, they don't want you here either.
I've been hearing about other minorities asking Black people to show up and protest against ICE. Ask the Asians instead. Our shit's already being rocked. The working class ones are going to be targeted by ICE just like the Latino community. Hell, a bunch of us are already being deported and often to the wrong country. And then as for the richer ones, Trump has already banned all Chinese students from coming to the US to study and has banned all international students from coming to Harvard, which affects a whole lot of Asian international students. So anybody who looks Chinese, even if they're a US citizen, is going to be affected by this. He's put several South Asian countries on the travel ban list. So yeah, brown Asians are going to be affected too. Anyway, our voting numbers look very similar to Latinos. Just over half of us voted for Kamala and the rest went for Trump. We couldn't just fucking listen to Black people when they told us to vote for the Black lady who wasn't going to take all our civil rights away. And now we want them to come save our asses when they're getting whooped? Also, have you maybe considered that the feds want Black people to show up to the protests? Because then they have an excuse to escalate the violence. Then they have an excuse to call them riots. We saw what happened with the peaceful protests in 2020 after George Floyd was killed by a policeman. Also, if you've been paying any attention at all, Black people have been showing up to support Latinos who are potentially being deported. Look at all the videos from Compton. Just type Compton in your search bar. So why don't we do this? Why don't we let Black people make their own decisions? Stop expecting them to be your personal avengers. Mobilize the Asians. I know that if I'm in front of a cop at a protest, he's going to think twice about doing anything to me. He's not going to give me the same grace as a white person, but he's definitely going to give me more than he gives a Black person. And if you can't go to a protest, just fucking say something, especially if you live in California. Asians, I know there's a lot of you over there. I was born in the Bay Area, so I feel like I should say something. Anyway, yeah, mobilize the Asians. Stay safe out there.
As an Asian American, I'm extremely disappointed to see the lack of Asian and Asian American creators speaking out about what's happening with ICE, the deportations, and especially in California. As someone that was born and raised and has lived in California my entire life, I have the extreme privilege and sense of safety that comes with being a natural born citizen. I'm also Chinese American, and my grandparents immigrated from their respective countries. On my Japanese side, my grandfather put a lot of time and effort and care into building his own business in Washington. When the internment camps started happening, all of his efforts to help support my family, to give them a happy, healthy, safe life, and to give them opportunities, all of those efforts were ultimately disregarded, disrespected, and dehumanized when he was sent to an internment camp. And after the internment camps, he was never given any of that back. He had to work again to build a safe life for my family. The internment camps are a proof of a concept where our Asian communities are not safe. And Trump actually has been targeting Asian communities for deportation, particularly Southeast Asian communities. As Asian Americans, we have a unique perspective on what's going on because our families and our communities have also faced brutalization, have been targeted, we've faced discrimination, we've faced racism, and we know what it's like to be denied opportunity just because of what we look like or where we or our families come from. And if you're like me and you have the privilege to be a natural born citizen, I strongly urge you to use your empathy, your perspective, your experiences in your family, to use your voice to find out how you can support your local communities and keep your eyes and ears open to what's going on. Watch the news, share resources, understand and educate yourself on what to do if you witness an ICE deportation, if ICE ever comes to your house hoping to deport you or one of your family members, and to not fall victim to bystander effect or letting yourself not say anything because it's the easier thing to do. I hope that this can be a wake-up call for my fellow Asian Americans that you cannot be complicit in what's going on right now. What's happening is even if it's not affecting your direct immediate family, is going to affect your community and is affecting your local communities. I'm not even a content creator. I'm not even a small one. I barely even make content. And I know it can be easy to get worried about saying the right thing, doing the right thing, showing up in the right way. But at this point, all that matters is that you're using your voice in some way and raising awareness about what's going on. This is not a political or legal issue. This is a human issue.
Hello tribe, welcome again to this particular channel. I go by Sherlock. That is your first time that you're bumping across this one, and I hope that you're holding fine and great. You're doing great wherever you are. Now let's talk about something that has been eating up, heating up online, and of course, especially on TikTok. And there is a rising, a narrative where some Asian American and Hispanic seem to be, siding with each other, but in opposition, to Black Americans. Um, is this a real beef, or is a social media creating fake enemies for views? That's the detail what exactly we're going to be talking about now. There are other claims that people go, the Asians and Latinos created defending each other, while calling out Black creators in the comments. And of course, you'll see the support from both groups, and sometimes even mockery towards Black Americans. The tone is often defensive, sometimes sarcastic, and occasionally, just disrespectful. But TikTok is no longer just for, dancing. It's becoming a war zone for identity, culture, and social status in America. So some Asians and Latinos are users feel free that Black Americans don't really understand the immigrants' hustle. And they say, and I quote, "We came, even if we just watched, we came with nothing and made it. We don't complain, we grind." You get it? And this often turns into a competition of who suffered more or who deserves more respect, which of course leads to cultural tension. Guys, what am I talking about here? I put all those particular clips together, the courtesy of course to the content creators, the ones who created it, and then of course we react around it. You also do drop us your comments, your reaction, your thoughts on how you felt about it. And then of course, as usual, as we do it here, guys, I'll circle back at the end of this particular show with more thoughts and comments over the same. Let's keep on watching.
And who said you had to be Latino to be an immigrant? Who said your skin had to be brown or black to be an immigrant? Who made that stereotype? Who made and built that system? On the news, who are we seeing getting raided by ICE? People of color or people who are white? People of color or people who are Asian? In which communities is ICE going to raid? Beverly Hills or Huntington Park? There's literal ICE raids happening outside of elementary schools, outside of high schools, in areas where they know Latino populations live, low-income families live. Why are they assuming that immigrants live in these areas? Because they are stereotyping, they are discriminating people of color, Latino people, because they have built an image that to be an immigrant, you have to be brown, you have to be Latino, you have to be Hispanic, and you live amongst the minority. When I know a lot of immigrants who are actually white, who can be Asian, who can be Russian, but we're not seeing any of that on the news, are we? But we're seeing areas of streets in homes in LA, downtown LA, being raided by ICE. People who are literally sitting outside of their porch getting raided by ICE for being a person of color. This is not just a fight that the Latino community has to stand up against. When we're calling out our so-called influencers, it shouldn't just be the Latino population calling out other Latinos. It should be calling out everybody. To speak up about what's going on about the ICE raids in LA, you do not have to be Hispanic, you do not have to be Latino, you just have to be human. We are all human. We have that all in common. We all have families, we all have jobs, we all love, and we're all living this life. Please speak up about the ICE raids and spread information about what is going on. We're in a time of discrimination and racism that is so bluntly there that it is just inhumane to say that this is the right way to do it.
I wanted to lend my voice to the Asian American creators that I've seen talking about our histories and our personal experiences that have informed our support of Palestine. So I'm a third-generation Asian American whose family came from Hong Kong and Taiwan and had previously been in the United States in the late 1800s. I grew up with a lot of internalized xenophobia. When I was growing up, everything China was wrong and bad, everything the United States was good and right, and that wasn't so much coming from my parents or my family, it was mostly coming from media, but it is what informed my views on foreign policy. So a few weeks ago, I did a video pointing out how there was a day that conservative media was running a lot of headlines vilifying activist student groups, BLM, and Chinese people in China for their support of Palestine. And I was a little surprised because it was the first time that I ever learned that China supports Palestine. It seems strange to me because in my eyes, China frequently engages in power imbalances with the territories and the people around them. So I was wondering, why do they support Palestine's sovereignty when, for example, they don't recognize Taiwan's sovereignty? In my eyes, Palestine and Taiwan have a more similar history than China and Palestine. So that made me curious about what Palestine and Taiwan's stances on each other are, and I was disappointed to learn that Palestine backs China's stance on Taiwan and Taiwan backs Israel. But what I realized is because China supports Palestine, Palestine cannot afford to oppose China where it comes to their stance on Taiwan, and because the United States supports Taiwan, Taiwan cannot afford to oppose the United States where it comes to the stance on Israel, which I think is really unfortunate. And it was finally paying particular attention to the support of people in Hong Kong for Palestine that finally helped me better understand my own position and how it relates to my personal history. It is Asians and Asian Americans who have in their history the devastation of Japanese colonialism, and then when the Japanese surrendered at the end of World War II, experiencing further colonialism and further harm when the Allies carved up our various countries, the United States, UK, and France. It is that same time period and that same approach that created the situation for the Palestinians that caused my mom to grow up as a refugee in the land where her family had been living for generations and generations, reliant upon the British for resources. So I've freely admitted that I am somebody who was largely ignorant about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict until a few weeks ago, but it is not that I naively changed my mind because I learned a few things about this one single issue. It was the first time in my life that I realized that I recognized my family's struggles and the struggles of the Palestinians.
This couldn't be farther from the truth. In fact, our greatest allies have been the Black community. Black and Asian solidarity has a long, long history. And that's not to erase the examples from both sides of intolerance, hate, and violence. But at our best, we have long fought alongside each other, such as Frederick Douglass advocating for Chinese and Japanese immigration in 1869. Or when Henry Turner and Ida B. Wells spoke out on behalf of Filipino freedom fighters. Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, Martin Luther King, and many Black protesters condemning the violence and war in Vietnam. Japanese Americans fighting alongside the Black community to repeal the Emergency Detention Act. The powerful relationship between Yuri Kochiyama and Malcolm X. Grace Lee Boggs and her husband James Boggs. Jesse Jackson, the NAACP for Vincent Chin. And the majority of Asian Americans who support the Black Lives Matter movement.
I don't have a huge following, but I still feel a responsibility to say something. I've lived in LA for 4 years now, and what's happening with the ICE raids, the fear, the silence, especially from those within the Asian American community, has been really weighing heavily on my heart. I grew up in Queens, New York, around large Latino and Hispanic communities, and I've witnessed firsthand how deeply connected our communities are. A lot of Asian-owned businesses often rely on the labor of undocumented workers, often quietly, without any acknowledgement. And now, when the same people are being targeted, the silence is loud. It's painful. We come from immigrant families. We know what fear looks like, and we know what sacrifice looks like. And yet so many of us turn a blind eye when others are being targeted for the very reasons we're here. To those who are affected, I don't know what to say. I am truly sorry. You deserve to feel safe and you deserve to be seen. And to influencers, this moment calls for more than just posts about hidden gems in LA and food spots. If we love the city and its people, we need to show up for them too. If you have the privilege to post about where to shop in LA, then you have the power to say this isn't right. That is not political, that is just being human. I am not trying to call people out just to create noise. I am saying this because I care. This isn't about blame, it's about showing up. Speaking up doesn't require a perfect statement. It's honestly just about heart and showing compassion. And if you have a platform, even a small one like mine, it does matter. Be the voice for those who can't. Okay, bye.
For any Asian people who are selfish as fuck and are not standing in solidarity to Hispanic people over ICE immigration, just remember you're next and you are not that different from them. You know, all your excuses of it doesn't have anything to do with me, I mean, I'm legal and stuff, they don't care. You're gonna be targeted because keep in mind, you're not white. The system never will see you as white. They see you also as an immigrant. Guess what? After Hispanic people get deported, who's also going to be deported? Asian people. You're not safe from it. You're not white. They're not going to target white immigrants, and they can't target really Black people because for a lot of reasons, honestly. So they're going to target you. You're not safe because you perpetuate racism towards other groups all the time. No, you are just as likely to be a target as any Hispanic person, honestly. Like, I fear you should care.
So many people asking Asian creators to speak up about the whole riots in LA and all these deportation things. What is there to say? We support the deportations of illegals.
Sir, you look like the immigration issue you're ranting about. So the projection is wild because you look very illegal.
Asian people aren't really dependent on, migrant labor.
The loss of immigrants has the potential for a full economic collapse because of significant GDP reduction, labor shortages, increased prices, reduced consumer spending and demand, and billions lost in tax revenue. An economic collapse affects everyone. Immigrants make this country thrive.
This presidency promised that they would deport illegal immigrants. They're doing that. Why are you crying? You see it like these immigrants are waving the flags of other countries, burning down the flag of the U.S., and then you think Asian people want to support that? No, they want to stay away from that. They don't want to be grouped in with these people. Asian people don't want to focus on the negativity and say what they're really thinking. Deport, right? Deport illegal immigrants.
He is the embodiment of the model minority, which was created to pit Asians against other marginalized groups, rewarding obedience, silence, and hard work with crumbs of white approval. And he ate that up. Tap dancing for people who don't even want you here. No matter how hard you try to prove you hate yourself more than they ever could, and try so hard to distance yourself from the very people who fought for the rights that you now leech off of. You can grovel all you want for white validation, but you'll never earn validation from the same people who call you Kung Flu and China virus. Remember that? Kung Flu and China virus? You are not native. So how do you think it is that you were able to come to the United States? You think it was the whites who just kindly handed you an invite into our country out of the kindness of their heart? No, you got here because black and brown people, far braver than you, bled in the streets. The Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965 made it possible for you to live your American dream as the oppressor's lapdog. You're welcome. The people brave enough to fight out in the streets are the same people keeping you here. That fight going on right now is again a fight that you will benefit from just so that you can parade around like you earned those rights when you have never fought for anything in your weak little existence. Not your people, not your dignity, not even yourself. But be careful, because if they deport all of the people who fight for our rights, you might find yourself in an internment camp, because who's going to fight for you? You don't even fight for yourself.
Hello tribe, I told you that I'd circle back at the end of this particular show with my thoughts and comments over the same, and here we go. So hope you've done also the same. Now we are going to be very clear about the Asians and Latinos, kumbaya, come together kind of a thing. And of course, this coming together, sometimes Asian Americans and the Latinos unite not out of friendship. Yes, not out of friendship, but over shared stereotypes. And these stereotypes are usually against black people, and they mimic the same anti-black language, that has been passed down from racist media or even internalized family views. So, but again, also, it goes without saying that not all are against black Americans. And many creators are calling this out, and mixed creators are speaking about the heart of being caught in the middle. And some Asians and Latinos influencers are, of course, defending black Americans, are pushing back against hate, which is a good thing. And of course, we don't have to forget where this started from. Where did the divide, where did the rift, come from? Now, the divide has layers. Layers of colorism in Latinos and Asian communities. Anti-blackness inherited from colonialism and Western media. Cultural competition. And in schools, jobs, and neighborhoods, don't forget that. And also, sometimes it's just TikTok cloud chasing. and to start just drama and to get views. This isn't a race war per se, it's a misunderstanding war. And the real enemy isn't another culture, it is the system that, taught us all of us to fight for crumbs. And of course, everybody needs to stop letting social media decide who we are mad at and start checking our biases, and of course, no matter how or what our skin tone could be. Guys, of course, with those particular sentiments right there, I also do stand correct because they'll be purely my opinion. Do drop me your comments in the comment section on what exactly you think, tribe. And of course, stay tuned. Let's meet in the next one.